Mitchell. I'd like to welcome you to another in our series of presentations on pathways to home ownership. And this is our Nicholtown housing series. We've had several in the past and they've been well received, and we know you're going to like the one tonight. First, we'll go over our general housekeeping and let you know what our expectations are. If you're not familiar with Zoom, if you move your cursor over the Zoom page, you will get a bar at the bottom that has your microphone, your video, a participants button, a chat button, and reactions. If you hit the reactions button, if you want to ask a question, you can please raise your hand. There's a bar at the bottom that says raise hand. Also, once you raise your hand, once you're called on to speak, then you hit the bar again to lower your hand. Otherwise, it will stay up. There are other reactions there where you can applaud, you can laugh with joy, you can say yes or no, all kinds of things. And please feel free to use these. What we normally do is put our questions in the chat box. We do this because as we're making our presentation, the presenter may say something later in their presentation that already answers your question. So if it's in the chat box, we won't have to stop and see what your question is and try to answer it during that portion of the presentation. If, however, there is no question in the chat box, at the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session. Tonight, we have two presenters, and we will have Q&A at the end of each presentation. We want you to feel free to be fully engaged in tonight's session, and we want you to take notes, ask questions, give your opinions on things, give examples of your experiences so that we can have a dynamic, interactive presentation tonight. I think just about everyone should be in the meeting room. We will also be streaming this live on Facebook. Unfortunately, the Facebook attendees will not be able to ask questions, but we hope that they will be able to get a lot from the presentation. First on the agenda tonight is Mary Neal McClintock. Mary Neal graduated from Clemson University before becoming the program director at GOAT. GOAT is the Great Outdoor Adventure Trips. She was program director there for 5 years. And during her time at GOAT, she was able to use her gifts of creating and implementing effective programs for students, as well as build relationships with numerous nonprofits leaders in the area. Her love for what home means and her passion for helping people led Mary Neal to become a realtor. She hopes to continue to serve people by walking alongside them to make their dreams of home ownership come true. With that, I present to you Mary Neal McClintock. Mary?
Hey everyone, how are you? I'm so happy to be. I see some waves. I wish we could meet in person, but I'm glad we can meet this way right now. Um, Thank you, Alan, for that intro. Like Alan said, I'm a realtor here in Greenville, South Carolina, and I'm kind of piggybacking off of Elias and Cam and Joy Hill. I'm good friends with them, and so I'm glad they could connect us and that we're able to do this. So I want to talk to y'all a little bit about owning a home and why it's possible and why it's beneficial and how you can take the next steps in doing that. And then I think Constance will follow me up with a couple of resources that will help y'all take the steps to get there. So I am going to talk about a couple of common myths that people may think about home ownership or the home ownership process. And one of them is that it's just cheaper to rent than buy a house, which is not always true. Maybe when you get to a certain price point, but right now with the interest rates, it's actually been your monthly payment is actually cheaper most times than renting, which is pretty crazy. And then another myth is that your credit score needs to be excellent or have like almost a perfect credit score, which is also not true. Lenders typically start lending around a 650 credit score. And then if that seems super high to you, there are programs that can help you create a step-by-step plan to get there and get you a good interest rate. So another myth is that you have to have 20% down to buy a home. I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, and a lot of people think that, that's just been the number that they've heard, and you have to have 20% cash for a down payment. And they're like, how am I ever going to save that? Like, that seems impossible. But that's a myth. And there's actually programs that start with 0% down financial assistance. And Constance with Community Works, I believe, is one of them. So, and then the last common myth I have for y'all is that realtors cost money, which is, I guess, kind of a two-sided answer. But to buy a home, to work with a realtor to buy a home, we do not cost any money to you. The sellers are actually the ones that pay for the realtor to bring a buyer to them. So if you are looking to buy a home and to have a professional realtor, someone in the real estate world to walk you through that, it's actually costs you nothing, which I think is pretty cool and a great resource to have as you're trying to navigate the home buying process. So that is who I am. That is what I do as a realtor, is I help lead you through this process that I think can be super overwhelming, especially, if your family in the past hasn't done it, or if you don't have people around you buying homes. I would never know how to do it, because how are we supposed to know how to do something that we've never done before? And so I think that's one of the best part of my jobs, is to walk through this process with first-time home buyers. And I think the best part is that I say that I don't have to make any decisions. It is my job to kind of be the glue of the transaction and keep all of the parts of the transaction together and lay out all of your options. But you, the buyer, choose all these things, and I help it efficiently move forward in the process. So all that to say, I'm going to try to keep this simple, even though it may seem overwhelming at times. I know humans, we can only take in so much information at one time, and I don't just want y'all to feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose tonight. So all that to say, it can be a very difficult process, and I'm here to help make that process easier. But I also know that there are some very real barriers that I want to acknowledge that are, due to historic systematic racism. And I want to be part of that conversation, to walk alongside you and help get you the resources to get you from where you are to where you want to go, even though this is, such a small conversation and part of the conversation moving forward. So owning a home, why is it beneficial? Isn't it? I can't see if anyone. I guess we'll do questions after. I can't see the little question box, but we'll come back to it if y'all ask anything. So why owning a home is beneficial? Why should it even be something that you want to do? And there are a lot of reasons, but the few that I have for y'all tonight is number one, financially, of course. So if you own a home, you are constantly building equity. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this building equity and this ownership in your home results in this generational wealth that you can then, give. Oh, wait, let me see if I can allow notifications. Sorry if someone said anything. I don't know what's happening on the Zoom front, at least. So yes, building equity results in this generational wealth that you can then pass down to the generations behind you and your family and create that bright future for them. Real estate is also a sound investment because once you have ownership in it, it can't be taken away from you. You'll keep building your net worth the longer that you own the property. And then one of the last ones I have is that when you own a house, you're in control of the space. So you can do things, whether it's renovations or just making it more functional for your family. You can do things to improve and boost the value of your home, which is pretty cool to have that ownership in it. So, and then just talking a little bit about equity of what I mentioned earlier, that financially you're building equity as you own a home. And what that is the ownership you have in your home. So you can get this by either paying down your mortgage every month or an increase in value in your home. So it's what you don't owe the bank. So like an example of this is if you have a $100,000 house and you owe the bank $80,000, or you have an $80,000 mortgage on the house, that leaves you with $20,000, 20% of the home that is all yours. And so you own that 20%. So if you fall in hard times, the bank can only take what they owe. So they can only take 80% of it, and you still got the 20,000 that you've put into it. And then times when the market it's a seller's market right now, which means that sellers have the upper hand. There's way more buyers than there are sellers. And so their houses are going for more than they originally bought them for. And so that's another way to sell your house, and you can actually earn more off of it than you bought it for. I get a lot of questions about, so many first-time home buyers will come up to me and say, well, why should I buy over rent? What are the pros and cons? And I would say that, there's pros and cons to both, depending on what season of life you're in and what your financials look like, everything. But just a little example is when you are renting, this is kind of what I tell them is, you say you're paying $1,000 a month for rent. That means that $1,000 goes to your landlord. So the landlord takes it and he pays his $500 mortgage. And then he pays his $500 mortgage, which is building his equity from your payment. So while he's building equity in the home you're living in, you're paying him every month. Now, if you own a house, you're paying $1,000 a month, the same amount you're renting for. That $500 that is going into the house is going to build your own equity. So I would say that is one of the awesome benefits of buying a house. And I know that renting is great for what it is, and it's needed in different seasons of our lives. But it's kind of cool that you get to, pay the same amount you were paying somebody else, but actually having ownership in it, I think is super awesome. Now, some of the barriers for owning homes, which there are a lot of them, it could just be education. You're overwhelmed with the process because it's foreign to you and you've never done it before. The income versus debt ratio, you're not able to get a loan for what you want to buy a house with. It could be your credit, it could be cash for down payment, or any of the associated moving fees like buying a washer, buying a dryer, some things that we don't typically think of. And I don't have all the answers to all of these things, but I do know people that have resources to make it possible. And some things to make this possible are there are programs that you can have 0% down financial assistance. Another cost of buying a house are called closing costs, which is what you pay the attorneys with and title fees and all these things. And so there are programs that will actually pay those for you. And then when you work with a realtor, they can make a strategy to best suit your needs, and you can actually ask for the closing costs in an offer. So other resources are making a one-on-one plan with somebody at Community Works to build your credit score. So if your credit score isn't quite there yet, and that's a goal you want to work towards, they will actually meet with you one-on-one and make a B, C, D, E plan to get your credit score where you want it to be and get that interest rate that you want. And then there's other places like Habitat for Humanity, who I believe are building about 30 new homes in Nicholtown, and they actually walk you through the process of home buying it or building it, and then buying the home over like 2-year span. So it's super in depth, and they'll walk you through every step of the way. So this is a lot of information, but I guess what I want you to know is that the first step, talking about credit and equity and all this, is getting your finances ready. Because to put an offer in on a home, you have to have a pre-approval letter from a lender. And so once you get that pre-approval letter, that's kind of where I step in, and I help you walk through inspections of the home and make sure that the attorneys are, pulling clean title for you, and that the lender is getting all the paperwork needed to the attorneys. And I kind of make sure that I'm working for you, I'm working for the buyer to make it just the best possible transaction, and that you're getting everything that you contractually are allowed to have. So it is honestly been such a joy to be able to do this and meet more people and help them through this process, because I love people, and so I build relationships through it. And it is like Alan was saying, I've found such joy in, I actually live in my grandma's house, and so it's been such a joy to have like those family memories here, and it's just been amazing to see like what home can mean and how we build our lives in them. And so to come alongside somebody with that and make that happen for them, that they have never owned a home before, is just, I think it's the best thing ever. So I think that the kind of the goals of this are, number one, I want you to know that I am a resource to you, and reach out to me anytime if these are the goals you have. I would love to help you walk through this process. And then also just education. If you have any questions about it, I would love to just be friends and answer questions that you have about it, even if you're not ready or looking to buy a home right now. So that's about all I have for y'all. And I know that Constance has a little bit more of like the tangible resources that I would love to partner with y'all and Community Works to make it happen to buy your first home. So that's all I've got.
There's 2 questions in the chat.
Oh, let me see.
I can read them as well, but
okay. Can you read them?
Yes. The questions are, first one, is it better to ask the seller to make improvements that you desire, or should you purchase the house as is and make the improvements after the purchase?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think my life motto is kind of, if you never ask, you'll never know. And, the worst they can say is no. So it is that, I think this is where a realtor really comes into play, because we understand the market. We can kind of like edit your offer to know, because you want to be in line with, you want to get the house, you don't want to ask for too much where the seller should say, no, you don't get the house at all. But you also want to buy a good house because you want to buy a house that, you want you and your family to be in. So, and then the contractual area of that is that the sellers are only contractually obligated to fix certain things. So any of the systems of the house, so that make the house work, the roof, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, structural, all of these things have to be in operating order for the seller to sell it to you. So they are contractually bound to that. So they have to fix all of those before closing. And some of the other things that are updates that you might just want to do once you move in that will bring value to the house, but aren't necessarily making it function and operate correctly, they don't have to fix. So that's a hard question because it depends completely on the circumstances, who the seller is, what are their goals. If they're just looking to get out of it quickly, maybe you will accept it as is for a lower price because that's helping both of you. So really it's all about a conversation, putting an offer in and then having a conversation with the sellers about what we can come to a conclusion and an agreement of what would work best for y'all. So I feel like there's not a black and white answer to that question, but that is a great question. But I guess the answer is it depends.
Okay. Next question. What recommendations do you have for being able to afford homeowner maintenance? Because a lot of people think, okay, I buy the house and I'm all set. I just pay my monthly house note. But things are going to wear out. Things have to be replaced. Things have to be maintained. You have to paint, and not just for aesthetics, but for necessity. So what recommendations do you have for being able to afford the homeowner maintenance or build that into your budget?
Yep. So that's tricky because I think that is one of these kind of hidden costs of moving into a home. So like you were saying, Alan, you say the mortgage or you get the mortgage and you're like, oh, I can pay that monthly. Great. And then you don't think about all these hidden costs. And you never know. I mean, you know something about the house. They have to tell you the roof age, the HVAC age and all of that. But it's life that the second you buy a house, something goes out. And so what I try to encourage my buyers to do when you're first buying a home is to ask for a home warranty. And that's something that you can actually ask the seller to pay for. So the first year that you move into your home, any of those operating systems are actually covered. So you'll call a number and you pay a small fee, but they will come in and fix any of those systems that are covered under the home warranty. So that's the first thing I would do. And then the second thing I would do is, ask me or ask people around you who have relationships with contractors. And so you can compare rates and get the best rate possible. And then also I think I do this myself of having an emergency fund or like a home allowance that you are putting money into every month, that you can know that you are covered if something big were to happen. So I think, creating a special account, savings emergency account, and then asking for a home warranty, and then just shopping rates around town, shopping for contractors and asking people that you know and trust who they use and have good rates.
Okay. I was checking to see if I see any hands raised, and I don't see any right now.
Okay.
But another question is, how much insurance should you purchase in relation to the house value or the house price? Is there like a percentage or something?
There is not. So this is something that your lender would help with, and Constance might actually know more about this than I do. But you can shop rates for insurance as well. And then when you're shopping rates, you'll put in, how big the house is, how old is the roof, how old is the HVAC, and they will give you a quote for that, and they'll tell you how much it covers. And typically, it's a percentage of the value of your house. So I can't really give you an exact number because that's such a broad subject, but Constance may know a little bit more about that than me. And lenders and then insurance agents, of course, would know the most.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments so far? Right. Then let's see what Constance has to say, because she may be able to answer some of those questions. And Constance, at the end of the presentation, you can keep in mind, and we can go over those questions again for you in case you would like to comment. Now, Constance's kid is a program manager for first-time home buyers, and it's a first-time home buyers program. She usually helps about 30 home buyers a year with down payment and or closing cost assistance. She graduated from Tri-County Technical College with an associate's in accounting, and she has been with Community Works since 2017. Now, when she is not working with first-time home buyers, she owns a small business and loves spending time with her son and her husband. So Constance is one of those people that has a life, something we should all aspire to have. So Constance, if you will unmute and please make your presentation. Welcome to our series.
Hey, good evening. Can y'all hear me okay?
Can hear you fine.
Okay, just want to make sure. So typically, what we do is we help first-time home buyers with down payment or closing cost assistance in Greenville County, with up to $5,000 for either or. Typically, what we do is we help with the borrowers with the 3.5% requirement that the FHA loan requires. We also work with the other loan types as well, such as conventional, USDA, and VA loans. Any lender can actually use our program as long as their company is fine with our program requirements. So typically most people that come to us, especially with first-time home buyers, they are already home ready. So that means they've already been pre-approved with a lender and either already close to having a home under contract or already have one under contract. So to apply for our program, your lender actually would submit the online application from our website and also submit the required documents off of the lender checklist, which both of this information and the requirements can be found on our website as well, which is communityworkscarolina.org. So if I speak too fast, y'all have access to this information as well. Typically, the process takes about 3 to 4 weeks. We normally ask the lender to apply on the behalf of the client, and typically do it about 30 days before the closing date so that we have enough time to review the documents and also order the inspections that our funder requires for our program. So the inspections that have to be done, one is a safety inspection. So it's like a typical inspection where they go through, they check like all the electrical outlets. They touch point on making sure that the foundation's okay. They check the attic, they check the foundation. Typically the same thing as like if you were going through just a regular inspection that the borrower would purchase on a home. So it covers pretty much the same thing, but with our program, it has to pass that inspection. If it doesn't, then we actually will send out a repair list that has to be fixed before we can actually go back out and re-inspect it for it to be able to pass. The second inspection is just an environmental inspection. This is actually just done in an office. So we wouldn't actually go out and actually look at the house. We would just look at some information based off of the computer and just the environment around the house itself. So typically that's an easy pass for most homes. I've actually never seen one not pass for that. Also, there are some basic requirements for the program. So of course you have to buy within Greenville County. It must be your main residence, and your mortgage loan must be a 30-year fixed mortgage rate. We do have an income requirement where it must be at or below the 80% area median income for your household size. So for an example of this, a family of 4, the max income is $59,900 that you can make for the year. That is going to be your combined income. So if you have a spouse, we also include that income as well when we're going through the process of reviewing the application. Also, a borrower must also take a homebuyer's education course. We typically partner with Greenville County Human Relations for this certificate. If I remember correctly, they have 2 choices that you can do. I know with COVID, they have kind of changed it a little bit, but they offer one where it's through a Zoom meeting. And their in-person class used to be 8 hours, so I don't know how long it is now. And then they also have one that is a self-paced where you can take it online at your own pace. And there is a fee related to that, but you'll have to check with them to see what the fees are. And then the last thing is your mortgage payment can't exceed 33% of your monthly gross income. And that's where what we do is we check your monthly gross income and compare it to your mortgage to make sure that it's affordable for you. And that's a major requirement that we check. And if we have families that are over this, sometimes it can be adjusted with the lender. Typically, like the insurance or taxes can be adjusted a little bit to help bring it down. Typically, that's for families that are around that 34 to 35% mark. That's just right above the 33%. So we do have some areas where we can try to adjust it to help make it work. And then as far as homes that are eligible for the program, we can do existing homes with a sales price of $195 or less. New homes, which is like a new build, we can go up to $240,000 for. And of course, all homes have to be within Greenville County. And then as far as the terms of the program, so once you've been approved, we release the funds to the attorney's office. So you will actually not get a check cut or anything like that. Everything is wired over to the attorney's office the day of closing. A borrower also cannot get any funds back. So that means like if you have like $1,000 that would be shown to go back to the borrower, we can't have that for our program. So something we would have to report back to the lender and have the CD adjusted to where it would show a 0 balance, or we wouldn't be able to wire the funds over. Also, how it works is it acts like a grant, but it's really a subordinate lien that goes on your property for 5 years. So what that means is there's no payments, there's no interest or anything like that. So it stays on your home for 5 years, and then each year, once you hit that first anniversary day, it will deduct itself by 20% each year. By the 5th year, what we would do, it would come down to 0. And we would actually go in and satisfy the mortgage on your behalf. So once that 5-year hits, it would no longer be a lien on your property. If you were to sell or refinance the property before the 5-year period, there would be a prorated amount that would have to be given back to us for it. That's just one of the requirements that the funder requires if you sell or refinance under that 5-year period. Now, if you're using closing cost assistance and it's provided by us, the mortgage actually has to be paid back upon the sale of the property. And we have 2 different funding pools. So that's why we have one that's forgivable and one that's non-forgivable because of the funder requirements. Also, the last thing, there is a processing fee of $325 that is due at closing. And this is just kind of like an admin thing of where we have processed your application and your documents. And this will actually be put on your CD at closing. So you wouldn't have to write a check or anything like that. It's something that your lender and your attorney would take care of for you on your behalf. And then we do have some clients that come to us that are not quite home ready, but they don't know where to start. So we have a lot of families that come, they call us and, ask about the process. So typically what I do is I'll kind of give them a basic rundown of kind of where to start by finding a lender and a realtor and see where their credit is, because that's the most thing that a lender is going to look at it at first is going to be your credit and your income. So those are kind of the first two spots that you want to start with. Also, we have a program that's in-house. It's a financial wellness program, and our financial wellness coach is Idris Tucker. She works with a lot with the community. What she does is she sits down with clients that either want to start a small business, wants to buy a home, or just sit down and just want to help create a budget for goals. So what she does is she'll sit down with you, she'll review your credit, she'll help create a budget for you, and just basic questions if you have, about the process, because she also has a realtor background as well. So she's great for people that I can refer to that isn't quite home ready, but just needs a place to start. So I always recommend her for families that are in that situation. That pretty much touches the basics of my program for Community Works. And then I know there was a couple of questions that were as Mary Neal was talking, and typically I don't know as much on the lender side, especially with the insurance stuff. That would be something that a lender could talk to you about. Most of the time what I see is they'll go with the amount that the house was appraised for. You could go over if you wanted to, but they could definitely talk to you more about that as well with a lender. And I think that's it for me.
All right. Thank you very much, Constance. Do we have any questions for Miss Kidd? I'm looking for hands. I am not seeing any right now. Try it again. Quintoria, were you just waving at the camera or were you raising your hand? Okay. All right. Well, seeing no more questions, I would like to thank both presenters for those excellent presentations. I do hope you were able to get something out of the presentations tonight. I know I did. Next, we will have our closing comments and what's up next with Alicia Brewster, who will also talk with you about the survey for tonight. And I want to personally thank all of you for attending, especially my Nicholtown Neighborhood Association members and officers and everyone out there on Facebook. Thank you all for attending our series. I hope it is beneficial to you, and I hope that you will continue to attend and make your time available so that we can gain this extra knowledge. Alicia?
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Alan, for moderating. And thank you, Mary Neal and Constance, for the great information for first-time home buyers. We have been working in partnership with the Neighborhood Association, the City of Greenville, and many other housing partners over the past couple of, or several months now, to bring these housing informational sessions to the community. And we are looking for feedback. So if you have any feedback for us that does not really align with some of the questions that will be in the survey, please do feel free to put them in the chat box. Also, please do share with us the topics that you would look forward to hearing about at some point. I do have a couple of announcements that I want to make about some things that are coming up. One is Sustaining Way also has a program called South Carolina Interfaith Power and Light, and an upcoming program that South Carolina Interfaith Power and Light will be hosting is a Civic Engagement Academy for leaders of faith. And this is not just pastors or ministers. This is any person who feels like they are led by their faith. This is an opportunity for you to learn about advocacy and about how our legislature works, and all the things that you may be wondering about as you try to navigate some of the things that you see in your community and at the state level that you feel should change. So May 17th and 18th is our Civic Engagement Academy. It is absolutely free from 6 until 7:30 on Monday and Tuesday of next week. Also, South Carolina Interfaith Power and Light offers a congregational energy efficiency program, and this is an opportunity for congregations to be able to have energy upgrades to their houses of worship. This is a wonderful opportunity to be able to get some work done on your facility, to be able to save money, also save the carbon CO2 that's emitted, so that we can hopefully cut back on carbon emissions, and also be able to put that money back into the work, the real work of the church. There is a link in the chat for you to be able to find out more information and to register for those two programs that will begin very soon. We also have our next Sustaining Way program that will be offered by our coordinators. Danielle is one of them who is on the call with us. She and Zana are doing a gardening workshop series. The next one is Insects in Your Garden. This workshop will be streamed on Facebook Live on May 20th from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And Danielle, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't think, nothing to add. Just if there are any Nicholtown residents interested in any resources for their garden, feel free to reach out to me or stop by Annie's house.
Thank you, Danielle. And another upcoming event that Sustaining Way will be hosting, and it looks like we will actually now be hosting it with several other partners, but we have a mental health and substance abuse program open house coming up on June 1st. And I will include the link to register for that. And I'll also put it into the Facebook Live feed as well. But if you are looking for resources and information about your mental health, as well as information about resources for individuals who are struggling with substance abuse, this is a wonderful panel discussion that we'll have with various experts from our community, some of them that you may be familiar with and other resources that you may not be familiar with. So please do share this with your family and friends in the community. Again, mental health and substance abuse workshop, or excuse me, not workshop, but panel discussion that we'll be hosting on June 1st. And this will be in collaboration with several of our partners. And then finally, we are gearing up and working with another one that we're doing in partnership with several other partners. We are doing a Juneteenth celebration on June 19th, Saturday, June 19th. This will be a wonderful community-wide event, and details are just underway. So we don't have a whole lot of information other than hold that date on your calendar. June 19th, we will be celebrating Juneteenth. And hopefully during that time, we'll also be celebrating the graduates as well as dads in our community, because Father's Day is the next day. And then finally, we do have our survey, and this does ask for feedback about today's event. And while you are working on the survey, we would love to open it up to any other announcements.
If you have an announcement, please unmute yourself and go ahead and make your announcement at this time. I hope everyone is taking advantage of completing the survey.
Does the survey open up for you? Is anyone having trouble with the survey?
Not so far.
Excellent. Do we have an upcoming neighborhood association meeting in May?
In fact, yes, we do. The next neighborhood meeting is the 27th of May. And that will be our last neighborhood meeting for this part of the year. Meeting after that will be in August. And that will be August 26th. So spread the word. Try to come to the neighborhood meeting on the 27th. And we'll fill your coffers.
Well, I will leave the room open for a few minutes so that we can all finish up our surveys. But thank you again, Alan, for moderating. And we look forward to seeing you again next month. Thank you for giving feedback about the next topic that you'd like to see.